The General Mining Company of Ireland came here and mined extensively, and they had a nice motto which stated, "Employ the people, enrich yourselves," which they took seriously, I'm sure. And it's because of the richness of the ore in the area. I should say that the so-called Silvermines Fault, in geological terms, stretches from the village westwards to Chile. Over in Chile there was extensive mining, principally for copper and so forth. And the mining then was sporadic in places, but it was at all times intensive. And it's recorded even that during the 1846 the miners were being paid by corn rather than by money, which suggested at least that they were able to survive. So, and we have evidence, of course, of the 19th century mining here, evidence in the form of wonderful engine houses that were built. These were beam engines. They represented a quantum leap in mining terms, because for the first time now steam was being used to assist in the mining, principally in terms of pumping water and crushing ore as well. And happily in the Silvermines area now we have 3 engine houses that are conserved and illustrate the type of work that was done after the 1860s. And we may well have had 10 or 20 of those, because they were very common. They existed really since the 1700s, but they were perfected then in latter years by Cornish engineers, so we call them Cornish engines. And happily we have 3 of them here. In 2008, 3 of them were funded by European Interreg program in association with the rehabilitation program here. 3 of them got attention, and they are now conserved, and they now serve as visitor attractions or tourist attractions in their own right. And then, of course, up about 1875 then, due to the economic situation or whatever, perhaps scarcity of ore, perhaps linked with labour, access to labour or access to the ore itself. But mining ceased here in Silvermines anyhow at about 1875, and all the plants were closed down. So there was a great silence then, if you like, between 1875 and for 3/4 of a century in 1950. Although war times seems to spur mining very much worldwide, and in 1918 here we had some mining development and mining interest, but we have no evidence of the buildings being built. But that's because it coincided with the 1914-1918 war. Obviously metal became important, and Silvermines was revisited for a short period, but essentially nothing happened until 1950, when the Silvermines Lead and Zinc Company was formed. And this was probably the first time in history that essentially an Irish company was set up to mine the area. And they had a twin project going, one at Silvermines and one west of here at Chile. The Silvermines plant was designed to process the ore residue from the 1800s, 19th century, and tons of that were processed in special buildings that were built called the Wales plant. It was a German pilot scheme, and they built these large buildings, which are still in evidence, in 1950 as a pilot scheme. But sadly, economically it wasn't very successful.